Hey everyone, this is Dragon Rider. When I'm not talking about video games with my husband in our podcast, Past Play Gaming, or giving you a rundown of the Hearthstone meta in just a few minutes on YouTube, you can probably find me posting something on Twitter at DonnieDK. But right now, please join me in getting your accessible deep dive into the competitive side of Hearthstone while we listen to Concede.
Greetings.
Hello.
Greet.
My greetings.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 134 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. Joining from Gadgets and New York, hello, it's me, RidiculousHat. I don't have a hat on right now, but my hair is almost ridiculous enough to be a hat. I need a haircut really bad. From Karazhan, California, we are joined by Mr. Botticus.
Hey everybody, excited for tonight. Should be a lot of fun.
Yay. I learned today that Botticus is the combination of bot and like a German or Roman or Greek name, like the Spartacus.
Yeah,
I
actually just learned this. I've had this nickname for like at least 4 or 5 years, and just figured it out like probably 5 months ago or so. Only a few months ago did I actually realize what it's from.
Makes me feel better to also be slow in the learning curve. From the Maelstrom, Louisiana, we have our friend Appa.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right. How you doing?
Pretty good. Unlike Botticus, my name's super simple. It's just a character from a cartoon.
Yes, you could be Appicus, but you sound like you count with beads. Yeah, we'll work on it. Anyways, moving on. Our guest this week from Stormwind, Pennsylvania, we have streamer extraordinaire PapaJason. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Thank you guys for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to hang out and talk some Hearthstone with you all.
If you like talking Hearthstone, you were in the right place, my friend. So before we get going on welcoming you to the show, just want to let everybody know our outline today. As usual, our intro, our ladder performance, talk about news. We've actually got quite a bit of news this week. Some good, some sad. We've got some tournaments to talk about, believe it or not. And Dexplanations will be about flavors of Paladin. So we're looking forward to that. But first, Concede is supported in large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/CoinConcede. You can also ask Scott S., our newest patron. Scott, thank you so much for joining us as a patron.
Everyone, get in here!
But he's not Grim, just a regular patron. We don't have a happy patron soundbite. We'll work on it. All right. Botticus, why don't you introduce our listeners to the world of PapaJason?
Sure. So this week I brought on PapaJason, and I want to give a little kind of short story about how I came to find him. So basically, I had seen his name in a couple different streams that I frequent, and one night after I was done streaming, I wanted to host somebody, and I kind of just randomly stumbled onto PapaJason. I pop into his channel after the host, and just started kind of hanging out for a little bit as I was winding down after my stream. And I believe one of the first things I heard him say, after it seemed like he had just gone on a bit of a losing streak, and it was very refreshing to just kind of hear him say something along the lines of like, losing happens to everybody. See, like I've been doing really well in these past couple months, and sometimes you just go on losing streaks. We just gotta kind of keep queuing up. And at the same time, I was also kind of commiserating that I didn't do as well in the last month of the season. And he was, cheering everybody up in chat. And I was just like, this is the exact kind of personality of somebody that I want on the show. So for all of you who don't know PapaJason, why don't you tell everybody kind of who you are and how you kind of got into Hearthstone?
Sure. Actually, I guess the way I got into Hearthstone was a friend of mine's roommate was playing it, and I saw it one day. And I'd always played Magic when I was younger as a kid, but it'd been a long time since I played almost any strategy card game. And I saw Hearthstone, and I was like, you know what? Let's try this. So I started playing, and also I should mention I played, a bunch of all the Blizzard games. So when I heard it was made by Blizzard, it also excited me. But I started playing, and I was playing mostly arenas and just kind of having fun with like random decks on ladder. My first deck that I played for probably 600 games or 600 plus games that I got my Golden Warlock hero was with Mech Warlock, which was never a real deck as far as I know. But I really enjoyed playing it. And yeah, after a while, maybe a year and a half, I was like, you know what? Let's see if I can play this game, at a decent skill level. And that was about a year ago, and here I am now.
Did it have Fell Cannon?
Of course it had Fell Cannon. That was the whole basis of the deck.
You might be my favorite person.
That's the big Mech Warlock payoff.
Yeah. It's like with Pirates you get Ship's Cannon, which is like Knife Juggler but better, and with Mech Warlock you got a slower, worse version that can hit your own stuff sometimes. It's fine.
So I wanted to ask, kind of, why have you how long have you been playing Hearthstone, and why do you kind of continue with Hearthstone? Because it seems like it's kind of been kind of a big part of your life recently, or maybe a bigger part of your life recently.
So yeah, like I said, it's probably been, I want to say it's 2.5 years. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure, but it's been about a year since I've started like trying to not compete, but like seeing how I could finish. And I just really enjoy the strategy of the game. It's fun. You can do it anywhere. In fact, for almost like for the majority of the last year and a half, I only played on my iPad. I only recently got a desktop to start doing this and streaming as well. And that was only like 2 or 3 months ago. So I'm pretty new into the like serious trying aspect of the game and like the streaming thing, and even the whole Twitch community as a whole. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoy it. I like streaming because you get to interact with people, and it's something that I really like to do. And like you said, I like to spread positivity and help people. And I feel like, sometimes this is people's escape. Everyone has different escapes, and I feel like if I can provide a good place where people get good energy and it makes their day a little bit easier, then that gives me fulfillment. So yeah.
So have you always just kind of had this attitude of positivity, or?
No, definitely not. Honestly, I think just going through some rough stuff in life, and a lot, you guys know the phrase "glass half full" or "glass half empty," where when things go bad for you, a lot of people want to look at the glass as half empty and wrong. And I try to look at it in a different way. I try to look at like things that happen that we view as bad to us as opportunities to grow and learn. And I think having a positive mindset is just a lot to do with how well you do in life and where you go in life. So, going through a lot of tough times, I just kind of learned that it's better to look at the bright side of things, and it just makes your life more enjoyable. So I guess that's kind of where I got my positive attitude from.
I love it. I think it's at least for me, it's kind of a, I don't know if struggle is the right word, but it's you have to put effort. It feels like you have to put a lot of effort into maintaining that.
Effort and an auto squelch plugin.
Meditation. That's what you guys need to do.
Oh, okay. So you're you do a bit of meditation. Is it like just kind of in home, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can meditate anywhere if you can sit. If you have a quiet space and your comfortable space, then you can sit and do it. It just helps you calm your thoughts and mind, because what gets you going is like those thoughts, right? You have like negative thoughts, and it's hard to get them away. So meditation kind of just gets you to push the thoughts away and calm your brain. And when they go away, you feel much more peaceful. And I think it allows you to maintain that positive attitude and look at things in a better light.
Okay. Do you use like an app on your phone, or is this something you learned through?
Yeah.
Or how did you learn your meditation, I guess?
Yeah. No, I don't use any apps on my phone. I did a lot of. I'm really into philosophy in general. I've done a lot of reading from philosophers and like Buddhists and Hindu like teachers. Talking about duality, non-duality. This is a whole nother branch. I don't want to go too far off into this, but yeah, it just kind of helped me get perspective and trying to take control of my own life in general. And there's a lot of people want to have the victim mindset, whether it's my genes, my parents, whatever, and like everyone's had horrible stuff happen to them in life. Everyone's got a story of pain, and I just want to focus on myself and what I can control. That's why, like, when you see about like the big losing streaks, like, yeah, we all get run really bad, right? But what's important is when we run bad, we don't start playing bad, because that's what really gets you. You know what I mean? Like, how many times you have a bad run and you look back and you're like, well, yeah, I did run really bad, but I probably could have won 3 or 4 of those 10 games that I lost in a row if I didn't get tilted. You know what I mean? So I just try to stay focused on what I can control and not worry about the things that I can't control, like bad RNG.
Cool. Speaking of things you seem to be able to control, I know you just qualified for your first prelims. When did you kind of decide you were gonna try to go for that?
Yeah, so the qualifying stage was like January, February, March, right? And I only played. Oh, I should mention I'm free to play, because a lot of people find that interesting. I'm free to play on North America. So I finished in January. I finished 108 in January, and I was like, you know what? Like, I wasn't even really trying very hard, like, to finish, because obviously, most pros who are really trying are playing multiple servers. It gives you a huge advantage in the finish, right? Because you can lock up the finish in one server, and then, if you lock up top 100, you can afford to go really hard and not take a bigger risk. Whereas opposed to when you're only playing one server and you need a finish, like, you have to be cautious with what you're doing. So I'm like, you know what? After January, I was like, you know what? I finished 108, and I wasn't on a level playing field because I was only playing one server. Like, what am I going to do if I start playing on 2 servers? So I decided to start a second account. I put in $45 into Europe. I'm not free to play on Europe, obviously, because I didn't have the time to grind out all the gold that I needed to start a deck. I made Murlocs on Europe. And yeah, then I had 2 top 50 finishes in February and March, and here I am.
Nice. So so that's pretty awesome. Do you have any suggestions? Like, what did you kind of learn as you were? Because did you have any top finishes in like last year and months before, or was this your first foray?
Like, I think I had like a 66 finish in like one of the off season months. But because it wasn't really counting for anything, I wasn't really trying. Like, January was the first month where it counted, and I was like into the scene far enough that I understood how to go for a finish and whatnot. So I really don't have that much experience in the going for a finish, but yeah, I think 66 was my highest finish prior to January.
Okay. And do you think it had part to do with that you understood Murloc Paladin, and Murloc Paladin just had to be good, or do you think it was just you had a plan with how you were going to get your finishes? Or
Well, I mean, yeah, I was strong with Murloc Paladin. It was a good deck. I mean, I've gotten high ranks with plenty of other decks before. I've gotten top 5 with Druid, with Jade and Aggro Druid, and I've gotten top 5 with Tempo Rogue when in the Raza meta. So I've gotten high ranks with a ton of decks, but I've never really gone for the finish. And just the combination, I guess, of starting to stream and seeing, just, I guess, reinforcing that I'm pretty good at the game. I was like, you know what, let's go for it, and it kind of just developed on its own. Not too much premeditation into it. But yeah, here I am.
That's pretty awesome. So were all your finishes pretty much with Murloc Paladin?
For the last 3 months, I played mostly Murloc Paladin. I did play a little bit of Combo Priest and Q Block, but honestly, I enjoyed the Murloc Paladin deck a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, at the end of the 3rd month, I was honestly very ready to move on and play something else. And I was actually pretty excited when the new expansion came out, and Tempo Rogue is, a reasonable deck to play again, because Tempo decks are pretty much my favorite types of decks. I really enjoy the ability to go aggressive or to play a little bit slower with the Tempo decks. So I'm pretty happy with the new meta.
Oh, cool. So I wanted to get into kind of a thing we were talking a little bit before the show about, which I was in Busta J's channel, and some kind of random person, I don't really remember who it was, but came in and saw that you were in the channel and started saying things like, all PapaJason does is play Murloc Paladin, and a bunch of pros say that's, and then expletives and kind of bad talk. And I just wanted to get into like your thoughts on playing one deck, because I didn't really I don't think anybody really in the stream except for that guy kind of were thinking that it was bad that all you seemed to do at that point was play Murloc Paladin. So what was kind of your take on that situation?
Yeah, I mean, listen, like, I guess I can say if you have haters, you're doing something right. So if someone wanted to go out of their way to, try to upset me or bother me. It's totally cool. Like the thing is about Hearthstone is anybody can craft any deck, right? So if someone wants to play a certain deck and play it a lot, they're welcome to do that, right? If the idea is to finish high, if I can play that deck really strongly and it's really good in the meta, I'm gonna do it. I'm trying to get a high finish. I'm not trying to make friends or try to impress people. I'm just trying to get a good finish. So I mean, I think my experience relative to most pros, people playing, a bunch of all these decks, is honestly like minuscule. I have plenty of heroes that I don't even have gold in. Like I might have a total of 150 wins with Priest because Priest was always a very expensive deck, to play. Most Priest decks were expensive, whether it was Raza Priest. And being free to play, I didn't really have the resources to play those decks. So obviously aggressive and non-expensive decks were just naturally what I was drawn to. Now that I've, a little more into the competitive scene, I'm learning to play more decks and expanding. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't bother me. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, and the negativity that someone puts out is only going to bring them down. So I don't try not to let it bother me.
Cool. I like that. I like that response. I guess the last kind of question I have, which isn't really on here, but how much actual tournament experience you had? I know you say you're free to play, which might mean you don't have a ton of like tournament viable decks, but you got prelims coming up, which means you got to have at least 4 decks. So how are you feeling confident going into prelims? What are we thinking?
To be entirely honest, I think it's a lot different for me than most players at prelims because I think most of the players at prelims really want to be in the competitive HS scene, and that's kind of very secondary to me compared to streaming. So like if I go there and I get eliminated in the first round or whatever, it's not going to bother me. I'm excited just for the experience. Blizzard gives you $1,000 just for making it, so it's a free trip for me regardless. It's not gonna cost me anything. It will give me exposure for the stream. It will allow me to meet cool people in the Hearthstone community and just have a cool experience. But as far as tournaments go, I've played in 0 tournaments. Prelims will be my first tournament. I probably will be at a huge disadvantage because I'm not going to spend tons of time prepping and deck testing like a lot of the pros will. But like I said, it's not as important to me. So if I do end up having a good finish, I guess it'll be that much more impressive. But yeah, as far as the decks, I will have 4 decks, and hopefully I will have a fair amount of experience with all of them. But like I said, if not, you guys will not see me get upset at win, lose, or draw. It's all good.
Well, I'll definitely be rooting for you. So I guess the last thing is, you ready to do your first podcast?
Let's do it. I'm ready.
All right. So I guess we should get into ladder. What were you gonna say, Hat?
I don't know. I'm gonna make a deep cut here. I feel like I'm in an Herbal Essences commercial. I just feel so refreshed from this vibe right now. Because I was about to talk about how bad of a person I was for playing Quest Rogue. But Jason over there, like, you know what, Jason? I'm going to do me. And who I am today, I'm playing Igneous Elemental on 3 and killing you from hand on turn 8. And you know what? That's okay. It's an okay thing to do. It's an okay person to be. I feel like I've just talked to the Dalai Lama or just listened to the Dalai Lama for like 20 minutes. I'm loving this vibe. I was talking to somebody else today off the podcast about how, like, your mental diet and your physical diet have the same effect, that if you eat crap, you're going to feel like crap, and if you eat good, you're going to feel good. And mentally and emotionally, it's not that different. If you watch toxic streamers or, participate in these kind of negative discussions about whatever you're doing, you're going to feel negative, but engaging with positivity, you feel positive. And just listening right now, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, listen, maybe I should plug that I'm also vegan, because I feel like it ties into what you're saying.
Yeah, well, it's clearly something's working over there, because being able to reject all that negativity is a really wonderful thing to hear, and I think a really important message to share. I already know that you are the perfect guest for this podcast, especially right now in the meta, where in the past week people have been complaining about Shudderwock until they realized Shudderwock was bad, and then now it's Quest Rogue that's kind of limiting some innovation in Standard, and I think Savich was the one that was talking about the 3 pillars of Standard, right? Fast Void Lords, Call to Arms, and Crystal Core. And I'm not saying that he's necessarily wrong about that, but I'm with you. I think this meta is still interesting, and it's maybe not as initially diverse as Ungoro, but there's still a lot to explore here. So I'm practicing Quest Rogue, but I also been trying a little bit of Rage's Shudderwock Shaman. It's difficult to play and win with, but I still think Hagatha is the most fun card in the set. And I've been experimenting where I can with my other favorite card from the Witchwood, Amani Berserker, which is, one of my favorite cards in this expansion. Oh wait, it's a classic card. It's just everybody is playing it now. And Navalis actually hit Legend with an 85% win rate with Tempo Mage with Amani Berserker. I never thought about that, but it seems awesome.
Seems pretty cool. Hit for 5 on turn 3.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Or turn 2 if you coin it out.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, you can just kind of fill in your
about
curve.
the meta hat. I just want to throw this in there. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, for me, like, when I played in the Raza meta, that was something worth complaining about, right? One deck was so dominant, or when I guess when Ungoro just came out and Jade Druid was just so ridiculous.
No, KFT.
Overpowered.
It was when they came out with Ultimate Infestation and Spreading Plague at 5 mana.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
that was
any
insane.
Meta where there's multiple decks that you can play at the top ranks, or you're seeing players hit rank 1 or get into the top 5 Legend with 4 or 5 different decks. That is not a meta to complain about, at least from my perspective. If there's parity in the game, and I'm not saying that maybe Warlock is maybe a little too strong right now, but if you played through those kind of metas, like, these are not the kind of metas that you should be complaining about, in my opinion at least.
Yeah, I'd rather have this than the mid-range Shaman Heroic Brawl meta any day of the week, when the most important matchup to learn was the Mirror. I agree with you 100% that I think there's still something to learn here, and we do have kind of a meta cycle, right, of Quest Rogue, Paladin with Call to Arms, and Void Lords, right? That kind of defines the 3 main strategies, and you can try and wedge your way in between a couple of them. I think Mind Blast Priest actually has a pretty decent matchup against a couple of those decks, but we're still learning, and we're still figuring things out. Now, the Vicious Syndicate report, the first one of the meta, comes out tomorrow night. That usually has the effect of stabilizing the meta because people go into that article, pick out some deck lists, and bring them to the ladder. So that means it'll be a lot easier to target starting tomorrow around 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
You know what? I think a lot of people are so quick to jump. Like you were saying about Shudderwock. Like, I remember the first day it came out and people were in my stream and were saying like, "Oh, Shudderwock's OP." I'm like, you guys have no idea what's OP. You know how often people hit like rank 1 Legend on the first day with a certain deck, and that deck is not even part of a meta in 2 weeks. Like, people are asking me, Jason, what's good? And I'm like, don't craft anything yet. Just wait. Just relax. Like, these decks, you have no idea what's going to be good yet. And even still, like, I think what's going to be very telling is the end of the month, right? Because when all the top players are going for high finishes, you really see what deck is the best because everyone's just playing the deck they think is the best. So if we happen to see everyone play Warlock or everyone play even Paladin or everyone play Quest Rogue at the end of the month, that's when we really first get a feel for the settling of the meta and for what's going to really dominate, moving forward until the next expansion or until nerfs come.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You kind of see a lot when people are tryharding really hard. Speaking of people that are grinding for top Legend, hey Appa, how's it going for you on ladder?
Pretty okay. I hit Legend on EU earlier this week, I think. Yeah, earlier this week. And so I'm Legend in Wild on NA, Standard on NA, and then Standard on EU. I was going to go for Asia, but I'm at rank 23 on there, and I don't have very many cards, so I'm just going to ignore that for the rest of the month. I know that was one of my goals, like to hit all 4 for Legend, but I really want to push for a top finish because I'd really like to make prelims again for Season 2 for this year. So I'm going to need to focus and like get it in gear to kind of push for top Legend.
That's not, are you really triple Legend? Are you pushing for the 4th?
No, not anymore.
Yeah.
I was going to, but I need to focus on getting top finishes on either NA or EU or both. So I'm just kind of ignoring Asia for the rest of the month.
Yeah. A casual 3 Legend slacker. It's what do you think you're going to end up playing at the end of the month?
On EU, I have Spiteful Priest and Odd Rogue. I think I might just go with Spiteful Priest. Because even though I think Odd Rogue's pretty good, I just have more games with Spiteful Priest, and I like its matchup versus Warlock way more. Like, I'll just take the losses against Odd Rogue, and I take the deck against Paladin fairly heavily, and it doesn't make the matchup that much worse against Warlock. I put in 2 Mind Control techs in there, because the taunts just don't cut it enough. I have, like, 2 Dark Reapers, 2 Mind Control techs, and then just, like, the Dragon Shell. I cut the 2 Scale Worms for the Mind Control techs, because they were kind of underperforming. So I think the deck's teched well enough to get push for a top finish against like what I'm expecting. And then on NA, I'll probably just play Quest Rogue. Honestly, I forgot how fun that deck is to play because I was just like so frustrated about its existence last time it was in Standard because it was so busted. Like the win rates didn't show it, but for having to get only 4 copies of a minion to proc it was nuts. And I played it a lot then, and it was fun, but it was like ice block for me. I liked playing with it, but I knew it was just broken and like not good for the game. But I think it's fine now, and I like playing the deck a lot. And I think it has game against most matchups. Like even your bad matchups, if you play them really, really well, I think you have a decent shot a lot of the time, even if it's not like I think you can increase your win percentage like a decent amount depending on how you play. And I think the deck has a really high skill cap, and I really like decks like that really challenge you and like challenge your skill level. So I'll probably just play that on NA for the rest of the month and Spiteful Priest on EU.
So does that mean that the 3 chair hosts are all Dirty Rogue players and only Jason is defending the honor of Call to Arms? Is that what's going on here?
Well, he must be the smart one among us because he probably smashes all of us.
Yeah. It's, oh, you silly Quest Rogue players, here's a Rock Pool Hunter. Good luck. Yes. So, Bob, what have you been doing, man?
So due to a variety of different reasons, I have not actually played that much. It kind of feels like I've actually played as many games in the past week that I average on a day when I've been playing a lot. So I played a bit of Quest Rogue. I got in some games before people had figured it out but weren't really changing their habits, but now it feels like people are changing their habits and are actually playing the more aggressive decks. So I was enjoying winning with that, and getting to play Valera felt amazing. So I was excited about that. But yeah, I'm leaving for China tomorrow, and I'm going to be there during the server reset. So I doubt that I'm going to be able to really push for a top finish. I would be ecstatic if I had like a top 500, but I'm just not even going to worry about it. I'm going to try and enjoy my vacation and then just have to stress out for the next 3 weeks, because I should have looked this up, but I'm pretty sure it's just your top 3 months out of the next
it drops
4.
your lowest month, so you should be fine.
And plus, I'm gonna be able to play in DreamHack, which hopefully I can get some points from that. And then I was like relatively close to qualifying this season, so with a few more points, I feel like I might have a shot with the next season, which is what I'll be trying to do.
Yes, well, if you have questions about how to qualify for prelims with ladder finishes, I know a guy. Hey, Jason, how
Yeah.
are you doing this month?
I'm pretty okay. I'm like floating around 600 on both EU and NA. I haven't really gone into a super tryhard mode. I tried last night, and I got distracted with the host. But honestly, you only need to really, really get into gear for the last like 3 days of the season. I mean, I think the top players can even do it with less time. Like the absolute best players can do it with less time. But honestly, guys, I've been playing a lot of Rogue myself.
Oh
I've been
no!
playing Ad Rogue.
You were the chosen one.
Yeah, but like I have prelims, and I've kind of ladder is like the main way I'm gonna get a lot of practice. So I've been trying to mix up my gameplay and play a lot of different decks because I need to get the experience with the other decks. And yeah, I mean I've played my fair share of Paladin. Don't get me wrong, but I think Rogue has been for sure my number 1 played class so far in this expansion.
And you said you've been playing Odd Rogue? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I've been playing mostly Odd Rogue. Tempo Rogue was like probably my favorite deck. I played it throughout Raza. I didn't have Raza Priest, so Tempo Rogue was like the only other deck to really play unless you wanted to play Jade. And I did play Jade, but I really like Tempo decks, as I told you guys earlier. So I was playing a lot of Tempo Rogue before, and when Odd Rogue came out, it's a little more simplistic than Tempo Rogue because you just don't have as many choices, right? The odd and even decks come out a little easier because you're hero powering very often. But I enjoy the tempo decks, and I enjoy the way Odd Rogue plays, and I'll probably do a lot of climbing with Odd Rogue. I really go into climb mode. But yeah, I've played Control Warlock, I played Cube Warlock, I played Spiteful Druid, I played Quest Rogue, I played I think that covers most of them. So yeah, I've kind of been all over the place as well, trying to prepare for prelims and just get experience with multiple decks.
Free to play, by the way.
Free to play for sure.
Man, that sounds like a pretty good diverse array of decks. I guess it makes sense. You got to prep for prelims. And Odd Rogue, I'll tell you, I've been trying that deck, and I learned something very special about it. Don't trade. The dagger is just 2 steady shots for the price of 1. You just go face.
Yep.
It's
I really like Greenskin in that deck because then you get upgraded steady shot for a couple turns.
Well, also, guys, it's important to discuss the build when you're talking about Odd Rogue, right? Because if you guys know when Odd Rogue, I think Dog was one of the first players to popularize Odd Rogue, and he was playing the more face version. It wasn't really a tempo deck. He was playing the version with those what are those kobolds that use arcane missiles?
Oh yeah, Kobold Apprentice. That was when Odd Paladin was everywhere too, and you just wanted to ping down little dudes the entire time.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
now
that
we're
deck
seeing
was
those
more of a
builds with
support deck.
Blink Foxes.
Yeah, right. But now, the one I'm playing is more of a tempo-based deck, right? With 2 Fungalmancers, not Greenskin, Cobalt Scalebane, a lot of 3-drops, and it cuts the Archer. I don't play Archer's Veteran. I don't play Glacial Shard, so it's not as much of a smork deck. It's more of a flexible deck where you smork when you need to, against Warlock. You want to get her out Argent Squire, Cold Blood if you can, but against a lot of other matchups, it's not so aggressive. So it provides a varying style of gameplay, I think, as opposed to the aggressive version where you're really just trying to smork and beat the guy down.
I will say I do think I like Greenskin more than I like Scalebane, in the sense that I feel like it is more likely to give you more damage. It's a very similar sized body, but it's very likely that you still have a 2/1 dagger left when you play it, and so you're getting an extra 4 damage over the next couple turns. And the deck plays so many 5-drops now that your turn 5, 6, and 7 are kind of taken up, so you don't have to you don't have as much time to re-dagger usually, which is why I was kind of being a big fan of Greenskin. And also, if you ever Greenskin a weapon with a deadly poison on it, it feels incredible. So
Yeah. Well, and you don't have to choose, though. You can play both 5-drops. A lot of the lists I've
Yeah.
seen, I think it was Ike's list that I saw that has Greenskin, double Scalebane, Fungalmancer, Leroy, and double Vilespine at the top, and that's a pretty powerful array of 5-drops, and that's, to your point, Jason, that's basically saying you're not a face deck, because if you have 6 5-drops and only one of them is Leroy, the other 5 must mean you're a tempo deck, so makes a lot of sense in context. Well, why don't we talk about the news this week, because we've got quite a bit to go through here. Jason, come along with us. We're going on a ride to a wonderful land called Concede. And let's do the news.
Well, we got to start off the news section with a little bit of a sad part because Ben Brode has left Blizzard, and that was really shocking. I think for most people, he just kind of announced it on Twitter. He's like, "Hey, leaving, peace, thanks for the good times, guys." Him and what was Ben Brode's official title? I don't actually know. I just kind of picture him as the face of Hearthstone all the time.
He was originally the head designer, but then when he left, he was the game director.
Okay. He left and Hamilton Chu left, which was Hearthstone's executive producer. And some people have speculated because Ben Brode in his Twitter posts, he was kind of saying that he was leaving to start up something new. So there's been speculation on whether or not they're going to be working on that together. I don't know if there's been any confirmation or anything past that, but I think it's just speculation at this point. And I mean, not much more to say about that other than we miss Brode. Bring back Brode.
It's really sad, but we're happy that he's so successful that he can take this kind of risk, right? That he can say, I have this incredible game that I helped make, got promoted through the ranks, and now it's time to bring these talents to something new. But I think it was Crip that said they're going to sell less packs because Ben Brode was put on this earth by whatever higher power that made him to sell packs. The man's enthusiasm is infectious. and Appa, you and I were there at BlizzCon when the man literally offered us certain death as an option, and our response as a crowd was to chant death, 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 death.
And he was like, "Why are we saying this?
Why?
Stop."
Yeah. So the man has kind of an amazing power over crowds, just kind of influence them and guide excitement. It's going to be without this right here. Where's my button? Hearthstone without that laugh is not going to be the same. So there's a really amazing movement that Nate Wolf put on Twitter, Flannels for Brode, where people are buying and wearing black and red flannel shirts or whatever cover flannel there is, and saluting our great game director. Ben Brode has done so much for this game, and he's been the face of the team, not the entire team, and he raised a good point that there's 80-plus people working on Hearthstone. They're all doing their part, and the show must go on, and we've seen a lot. The last video, which we'll talk about in a bit, was Dave Kosak and a couple of other designers that we hadn't met before, so it seems like they're ready to pivot, but it's just not going to be the same.
Yeah, it was also kind of weird watching the Monster Hunt video that they put out with the design team for that, and like not seeing Ben Brode there talking to people, and we saw Dave Kosak there instead. I was like, this just feels different. It's not bad. I'm not sure if it's better or worse than before, but like not seeing Brode here talking about like new stuff is definitely something I'm gonna need to get used to.
Wait, you guys know what it's like, and this may or may not apply depending on if you've seen the show, but if you've watched The Office, it's like when Steve Carell left The Office, it's like, all right, it's still good, but it's just
like
not the
like
same.
whenever Will Ferrell comes in, it's like, this is different.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, so talking about the Monster Hunt, I'm just gonna jump right into that. So there was a video released, and it's Dave Kosak talking to mission designers Paul Wynn and Giovanni Scarpati about the new Monster Hunt mode coming tomorrow, right? The 26th? Yeah, that's what the update was for. And, oh god, it disappeared. Oh, there it is. Hat. You're confusing me. All right, anyways. So they kind of went in depth a little more about what Monster Hunt is, because we haven't had too much info on it. We just knew it was a versus AI mode that they're putting in the game, similar to Dungeon Run. So they explained a lot of what this is, and what it is you're going to have 4 unique classes that you can choose from. They're based on normal classes, but they have a special hero power that makes them very unique. For example, there's Houndmaster Shaw, who makes 1/1 Bloodhounds with Rush for his 2-mana hero power. Tess discovers class spells that were cast this game, including from your opponent. Darius Crowley has a cannon that lives on board, it can't be attacked, and it shoots across from it to the 2 minions directly across from it. So it's very similar to the chess encounter in Karazhan Adventures or in that Tavern Brawl. If you played either of those, he's very positionally dependent, so that'll be really interesting. And his hero power his hero power activates the cannon, and then if the cannon kills anything, the hero power is refreshed, and then that's modifiable by the loot that you pick up after you defeat the monsters in the Witchwood. And then Toki starts the turnover for 0 mana. I didn't actually see this one, so I'm not really sure how this works. Is this every turn or what?
It's not in the video, so we don't know.
Okay. Is this just data mined?
It's data mined. The way I envision it is that imagine if every time you shot at an arcane missiles and you didn't like the outcome, you could just start it over.
Oh.
But I also envision
that would make sense. It'd be
yeah.
Ooh. Or you get like a random effect and you're like, no, I want a different discover. Every time you play Primordial Glyph, like, no, I need Fireball. No, I need Fireball.
Just get to redo.
I really hope there's some limit on that. I hope you can only do it once per turn, because otherwise I envision it being like doing the Hunter Challenge with the Lich King. We're just like, do I have Barnes? No, restart. Did Barnes hit Yashiraj? No, restart. Did Yashiraj pull Ragnaros? No, restart. I hope it's not you hit it over and over again a turn. I hope you get one redo, and I think that'd be really cool. But it's been data mined. We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so we're not exactly sure how that one works. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll all know by the time you listen to this podcast. So, some loot that you get after the encounters, after you defeat the monsters, some of it is reused from the dungeon run, but most of it is new. They said they've taken just a few of the more popular passive abilities from dungeon run and kept those, and then worked on entirely new things to make the experience for the monster hunt unique. And then they'll have class unique final bosses. I forget what I think they're called. Rival encounters or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact word they used. But
That sounds right.
Each class, each character that you play as has their own final boss, and then whenever you beat all 4 of those, you get to fight Hagatha, and you beat her, and then you can get a card back. So it's kind of similar to Dungeon Run in that you get the card back after you defeat it with all the classes, except it's not nearly as tedious this time because there's 4 classes. They're all unique, and then the Hagatha fight afterwards. So it's 4 runs plus the Hagatha. So I'm sure it'll take a lot less time. And then, yeah, Hearthstone Top Decks has been data mining and compiling strategies on the Witchwood encounters. So we have a link for that in the show notes as well. And that's pretty much all we know for Monster Hunt right now.
Tomorrow is a busy day. The Avengers comes out. It's the NFL Draft Day and Monster Hunt. So, first of all, don't Monster Hunt in my movie theater. Just wait till before or after. Second of all, get 2 monitors if you don't have one. And third of all, enjoy the amount of entertainment you have coming your way in the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm mostly gonna be monster hunting and playing games on ladder because I have a tournament this weekend, and I spent like 6 hours today crafting lineups for that. So I'm not gonna be doing much else but Hearthstone for the next like 4 days.
I'm gonna be flying, so hopefully I can play on the plane flight.
So our next bit of news were some hotfixes that they implemented, and the first one is with Shudderwock. And what they did was they cut Shudderwock's animation time in half, and they limited the battle cry to a maximum of 20, and then the life drinker animation is cut in half. So they kind of slapped a band-aid on the whole animations issue, and they were like, here you go, Reddit, just calm down. Shudderwock is no longer this as obnoxious to play against. So that's kind of good. It's not the change that I was hoping for. I would have liked to see a more like structural change with like the issues of animations in general. But I think those issues are like few and far between. Like Patron Warrior, Shudderwock, Yogg, they don't happen all that often. So I'm okay with like them happening infrequently enough that we don't need like an overhaul of the animation system. But I still would like the opportunity to turn the animations off. And then the next hotfix they had was arena balancing. Did we want to toss this to Jason, or do you want me to just go over this?
Let's go over this first, and then we'll roundtable it.
Okay. So arena balancing, they readjusted the buckets a little bit, the options you have for cards. They dropped the appearance rate of rares, and they bumped up commons and basics to compensate for that. And they made worse cards appear a little bit more often. You might be wondering, if you don't play a lot of Arena, why would they do that? Well, whenever they implemented the change a while ago, they changed how the appearance rate of rares, epics, legendaries, and while that was generally accepted as a good change, the decks people were playing against were just like a little bit too strong generally. So they're bumping down the appearance rate of rares to make decks a little less powerful overall, and they're making commons and worse cards appear more frequently. They said they still want to keep legendaries the same because they like how legendaries have a big impact on the game, and they have like a really cool experience when you draft them. And then epics, I think they just left those the same too, right?
Yeah, epics and legendaries, I don't think they changed. They just dropped rares a little bit and filled it with commons and basics.
Yeah, so I think over a large sample size, this will be uh, a little bit of a significant impact and make the arena experience a little better, and feel less like you're playing against a constructed deck every time you play arena, and more of like I'm blanking on the word, more of a unique experience every time, I think.
Yeah, it makes sense that they're continuing to try and fiddle with arena. It seems like the changes are coming pretty fast and furious. Um, it's a lot harder to get right. There's so little data that comes out there, and the data that we have, I mean, I don't mean to paint anyone in the community in a negative light, but a lot of the loudest voices we have in the arena community are extremely strongly opinionated and not necessarily focused on being positive all the time. And that kind of feedback is difficult to disseminate. It's difficult to interpret. Um, you know, getting good information and also facing down salt in the process. You kind of have to split wheat from chaff. Jason, do you do any arena? Do you have any perspective on this?
I used to play a ton of arena and I really enjoyed it, but between streaming and like ladder, I have played zero arena in probably at least 2 months. I wish I could offer some good commentary on it because I do enjoy it, but I've played none of it, so sorry.
Nah, it makes sense. We were hoping somebody else had, because none of us play arena either. Appa's over there getting triple legend, and Botticus is leaving the country. So we got yes. That's the array of things to do. Leave country, hit legend 3 times. There's not really any in between here.
That's it. Those are the 2 options.
Yep. Yeah. It's either hit legend 3 times or get out.
Well,
So
now we have so much more time with the reduction of the Shudderwock animations, so maybe we'll have more time for games since we won't have to wait for 15-minute turns from the Shudderwock animations.
I feel like every time Shudderwock is mentioned, there's a new Reddit post about it.
yeah, I don't know. What do you all think about this? Like, I don't know if any of us were really concerned about the power level, and last week we were warning people against being too crisis-minded about the power level of Shudderwock because all of us were smashing it. But do you think that this is enough of a solution?
I think this is the exact solution they needed. Limited to a max of 20. I don't see how you're possibly going to get like 20 battle cries in a realistic game for the most part and have it like matter that it was limited to 20. And just having it go by quicker, having the turns go by quicker just sounds like an improvement to me.
Yeah, I think this was not a change meant for like us, like people who play the game a ton and are like fairly competitive and play at a reasonably high level. I think it was more of a change for their new player experience, because I crafted Shudderwock on Asia like the first day of the expansion because it's super fun and I wanted to play it on there. And I was just like playing against like rank 25, rank 24, rank 23 people and playing Shudderwock, and like I would combo them out and then it would take 5 minutes. So I'm like, I feel terrible. I actually feel terrible doing this. I just don't want to play this anymore. Like, and I can only imagine like how bad that feels to somebody who's like just starting, like just getting into the game, having a great time, just like going through the tutorial, playing like against the innkeeper a little bit, playing some like arena, getting their feet wet in the game, and then it's like Shudderwock. You're dead. You don't know it. Sit here for 5 minutes. And I feel like that was the major issue, was like how Shudderwock negatively impacts new player experience with the game.
Yeah, Jason, did you run into it at all in the ladder?
Yeah, I've seen plenty of Shudderwock. Honestly, you guys were talking about the animations. Like when I first started playing competitively, one of the first things I was like saying to people, I'm like, why can't we just disable animations in general? I play Hearthstone with 0 sound. Like I always have, because I grew up with pretty bad ADHD, and like anything that I can remove to allow myself to focus on the actual gameplay is what I prefer. So whether it's like animation, sounds, or anything, like if I could take it out, I couldn't. And someone was like, Blizzard will never ever allow you to cancel the animations. And I'm like, all right, I understand, but Yeah, I think the Shudderwock thing it can be a little annoying, and I totally see Appa's point about the new player experience kind of being ruined by it, because you have to sit there and just watch someone beat you down for like 5 minutes and like hope that you can make a play afterwards. So I mean, I think the fix is good, and I think Appa's point was spot on.
Appa is smart. I agree. What else we got, Appa?
I just remember like how it was as a new player. I came into the game whenever Patron Warrior was like at its peak. I started playing
Oh God.
a week or two right before Warsong Commander got nerfed. So I did play against Patron Warrior, and I remember how bad that felt at like rank 18. And I can only imagine like Shudderwock, like not in terms of power level, but in terms of like it takes forever. I don't really understand what's going on. Suddenly my face explodes. Next game.
Yeah. Well, and that's why most of the people that I knew that were on the more casual end of the spectrum, there was not a single one of them that liked Quest Mage. They all universally despised Quest Mage, because you think about it competitively, just like put pressure on them and they die. But if you're a new player just putting together a deck with what you have, and you're playing Shogun Yetis, Quest Mage is going to beat you. And then they do nothing the entire game. Occasionally you burn a card in your hand, and then they get to go twice, and then you're dead. Like, what happened? So I think it's a similar experience.
You're struggling with like River Crocolisk into like Shattered Sun Cleric, Chillwind Yeti, and they're just like, okay, Nova Doomslayer. Then it's like, what? But my dudes are gone now. How do I don't got no dudes.
Yeah.
Like that kind of things kind of stinks as like a new player.
Was like one of my least favorite decks to play, like, not even play against, like, because I didn't think it was just not really a great deck. But the way they won so often was like glyphing into multiple extra ice blocks, or like,
yeah,
the way you had to win with that deck was so ridiculous. It bothered me so much. But let me say, guys, one of the sweetest things to do to a Quest Mage was pull out that secret and put them to 1, and then just pass every turn, and they can't do anything. That felt really, really good.
Oh, you would eye for an eye them. Yeah.
Yes,
eye for an eye was a wonderful card.
Yep, you would checkmate them and then wait until they fatigued.
You don't know how many times like people like I would do that, and they would play like 4 or 5 turns before they would decide to give up, and I would just sit there the whole time smiling. I'm like, stop playing this ridiculous deck, please.
So when you say meditation, is this what you meant?
Let me put it this way. This is what I'm thinking about when I'm meditating. Just putting them to 1 and playing eye for an eye. And you see my face smile.
And you just feel the inner peace of, the game might not be over this turn. It might not be over next turn, but someday this mage is gonna die.
Locked up and slamming eye for an eye.
Oh man, I feel better now.
That's how I got Toast all pissed at me. Was I beat him that one time with an eye for an eye, and he auto conceded to me twice after that.
Man, you beat him so bad he lost 3 games.
Yep, he actually added that 1 mana Witch Doctor card.
Oh yeah, that's right.
After he lost to me with the eye for an eye. Obviously, he had lost to Eye for an Eye multiple times before that, but...
Yeah, I remember seeing the Trollden highlight where he Voodoo Doctored himself, then pinged, then Antonitis, then go off.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That guy likes his wackiness. All right, what else we got in the news, Mr. Appa?
We have some data mining of the new patch. We talked about that a little bit, but I haven't seen all of this. What is this deal with slush cards?
There's like, it looks like there's some cards that were not chosen at BlizzCon in some of these, and then there's just some wacky cards under what they're calling slush cards. Like there's a mage card that's a 4 mana 2/4 that says you can play the top card of your deck, which has been a magic effect before in Future Sight.
Very powerful. Future Sight is very powerful.
And the card says temp art on it, and this particular card's name is Smarticus the Brilliant. I'm going to assume that these are either quest-specific cards, or they're Monster Hunt cards, or there's some kind of wackiness, because these effects are ridiculous. Like, really, really strange. Like the Warped Cultist. It's got an art. It's literally a pencil sketch of Spawn of N'Zoth, and it's 3 mana, 3/4 priest card. Give your hero +3 health. So it's like if Cabal Talon Priest targeted your hero. So we're not going to go into all of them, because if we go into all of them, then we spoil the surprise. These might be coming in your monster hunt. They might be part of some other thing that we don't know about, but these are definitely weird, goofy cards in a set that doesn't exist, and we don't know anything about it. So you're welcome to check them out there in Hearthstone Top Decks, but if you want to stay in the dark, you might see these cards again in the future.
Yeah, and on top of that, Botticus already touched on it, but they're implementing the arena cards that we voted on at BlizzCon for the arena-specific cards. I think that's being implemented in the new patch for arena.
Looks like some of them that we did not vote on, right? Because they already implemented the ones that we voted on, so it looks like they might be implementing some of the other ones that were options.
Because we voted, we were given 3 choices per class, so that's 27 cards total. They added 9 of them already, and this is the other 18. So these are the rest of them.
Yeah, and then the Tavern Brawl was released today, and it's you pick a class and you get to play with the Witchwood deck recipe for that class. And was it you, Hat, on Twitter that was saying you wish this would have come like the week before the expansion as opposed to this week? Or was that somebody else?
I didn't say that then, but I'm saying that now. That would have been way better than what happened. Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
People mix us up all the time. We're both short and attractive and really smart.
So
like
my other very short smart friend.
What are you saying? Do we look alike?
I'm just saying you're short and smart. He's short and smart.
Thanks, man. That's nice.
And then the other bit of news that we have is Battlenet balance is now giftable, which is awesome. It also makes what we're going to do later on the show a lot easier.
Yeah, it was kind of silly that you could buy something but not give somebody else a gift card. So now you can just buy balance and be like, here, this is yours now. Cool. So quite a bit of news here, but also we have a few tournaments to talk about, 2 in particular. Let's chat about them for a second.
It's the Grand Tournament!
So when I say last week on the podcast, and it's Wednesday, and we say, well, there's no tournaments that we know are coming, and then the day after, Tempo Storm announces a tournament that weekend, so I feel kind of silly, but this is a fun one. This is the Tempo Storm Team Feud, and this is not like a tournament, it's a show match, right? That's really what people are going to be doing the second weekend of an expansion because we're so new into the meta. But basically, Orange's practice team and Zalay's practice team. Orange's team is the Duskybois, Orange, Hunter Race, Glazer, Mitsuhide, Boston, and Chinoise versus Team Weiner. That's the name that they chose for themselves. Zalay, Ike, and Crane said, we're gonna each build a deck from each class. That's 9 decks. We're gonna play best of 13. The first team to 7 wins gets there. There's no bans. And you get to have 3 players play at a time. So the different sizes of the teams wasn't supposed to be a factor. Any 3 can be tagged in on Orange's team. And of course, for Team Weiner, all 3 of them are there the entire time. So it ended up being a full 13-game series. Team Weiner ended up taking it. They were down 4-6, and then won 3 in a row, including an incredibly entertaining but disrespectful win, where Zalay played a Leroy, walked away from his computer, did about 30 seconds worth of pull-ups, walked back to the computer, and attacked for lethal. And to quote Sottle, the amount of disrespect is unbelievable, but boy was it entertaining to watch. And this was really just like a fun match where these guys are all friends, they know each other, and they were just playing to do something and kind of have that fun grudge match feel. So I definitely recommend checking it out. It's 1 3-hour tournament, show match really, and it's just a best of 9 series. There's also a tournament that I found. I'm not going to be able to talk about it much because it's run by IGN Brazil. It's the Hearthstone OldSpice Tournament. It is only for Brazilian players and only in Portuguese. I don't speak that much Portuguese, and in fact, I don't speak any Portuguese. But it is going on right now on the IGN Brazil Twitch channel. The videos are a bit hard to follow because, again, Portuguese. But The grand final's coming on May 26th. We wanted to let you know about it now. We did actually find a highlight video that we have linked in the show notes where you can still get the idea of what's going on. And the bracket is up. The players in the current top of the bracket are Day and Fled. There are a few other players that have known exposure. What's his name? Ex Hasiao is in this tournament. Loxodonte is in this tournament. There's a bunch of players from Brazil that are known really strong players that were here. So it's definitely worth checking out, even though it's not something that's as immediately digestible for those of us that don't speak the language. It's still a tournament going on in a very new part of the meta. Now, as far as the decks we've seen, we did get not all the deck lists, but most of the deck lists from the Team Brawl. We did see the deck lists from the Duskybois. They published all 9 of theirs. Ike only published the 5 most interesting ones, or the 4 that did really well for them in the tournament, and we saw both teams brought Mind Blast Control Priest, and we never ended up seeing the Shaman deck from Team Weiner. I think they did kind of a self-imposed ban, where they didn't play the classes they thought were the worst, so we didn't see their Shaman, and I don't think we saw their Warrior either. But we did see some really interesting decks from the Wieners. There was a Skull Control Warlock. It's Control Warlock, no Doom Guards, no Cubes, no Despicable Dreadlords, just Control Warlock with Rin and a Skull of Minari in there, and that was really interesting. We saw a Hybrid Spell Hunter, Secrets, Spellstones, Rexar, the other good Spell Hunter cards, and then Dire Mole, 2 Houndmasters, Houndmaster Shaw, and those were the only minions. But basically, I went on Twitter and said the Hunter was really good. To My Side and Rocktalar are not worth just not playing these really good cards. Oh, and the Crackling Razor Maw is in there too. So you just play the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 4-drops, and then everything else is all the good Spell Hunter cards. And they had an Even Paladin deck that was the first really non-dude, non-silver hand Even Paladin deck we saw. Took out the Stegodons, took out the Dry Gulch Jailers, and took out the Valinir, as well as the Crystal Lions. And instead they have double Amani Berserker, double Plated Beetle, double Spike Grid Steed is in there, and they still have the Silver Sword on top. They just definitely went for more of a mid-range build that had more flexibility and wasn't as dependent on the mid-range or on the dude paradigm. So I found those really interesting. Duskybois definitely were playing decks that were more close to meta standards, except for maybe even Shaman. And as far as games you should check out, I know it's kind of silly to say the last game of the entire tournament was the best one, but the last game of the entire tournament was definitely the best one that I saw, at least. It was a 30-minute game. Q-Block versus Mind Blast Priest. And it was a really, really tricky matchup to play. It's Orange versus Crane. And Orange kind of meters the pressure out of his Warlock and really manages to keep steady pressure on his opponent. He ends up bringing Crane down to 6 before the game stabilizes. There's a really cool play there where Crane bumps in 3 minions and then plays the Northshire to maximize the Divine Hymn to heal up his minions, even though his trades don't do anything. It involves a Twilight Acolyte, and then you bump them all in, then you heal them all up, just to kind of draw everything and stabilize. And he ends up flipping the game with Alex Straza and playing nearly to fatigue and getting that second Mind Blast just in time. It was really, really cool to watch. Really educational. You kind of see both pros navigating the field really tightly in how do I get out of this game. It's unfavored for Q-Block, but Orange got himself into a very favorable position by metering his pressure and aligning it really well with what his opponent wanted to do. And then Crane was able to kind of stop it just enough until he was able to pivot and close the gap. So I would strongly recommend checking it out. The last game of the entire tournament. And for this upcoming weekend, we've got our first Hearthstone Championship tour stop in Taipei since the set has come out and Witchwood Standard has rotated. So that'll be the first time we get official counts for points, real live Blizzard tournaments since the expansions come out. I'm pretty excited. Are you guys excited? Did you watch any of these?
So I watched the first 3/4 of the team brawl, and I really liked I liked the friendly trash talk. I think it's entertaining, and my favorite part, you were talking about the Leroy
with the pull-ups,
disrespect. I liked the game where they were playing even they were playing even Paladin against the Duskybois playing the Mind Blast Priest, and they were going second, so obviously the even Paladin hero powered on 1 attacked on 2, and the Duskybois Orange said, "You will heal their face. I don't care that we're at 29. You're gonna heal their face as ultimate disrespect because we're gonna win this game anyway." And that, sure enough, they healed the Weiner's face, and Zalay freaked out. Zalay could not figure out why they healed, because it made no sense, right? Because they could have healed themselves for one, but instead they healed the Weiner's face instead, and it was very entertaining to me.
Yeah, he was racking his brain trying to figure out, like, what's going on? What do I do? And it was just straight up to get in his head, and it worked so well. Yeah, I really like the vibe of these show matches that we have, because this is what we can really depend on in the first couple weeks of the expansion. We want that tournament content. We want to know what's going on, and we can't always know because the meta is so unstable yet. You can't really depend on someone's ladder finish or tournament finish being based on the results of this kind of environment. So we want to make sure that that tournaments are still happening. I'm really glad they put it on. It was short notice, but they got the teams together. It was super entertaining to watch.
Totally agree.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot as well. I didn't get to catch all of it, but I caught bits and pieces, and I just think like Zalay's humor is spectacular. He cracks me up. I must admit, just the way they go back and forth. I've seen the show matches before that. I forget who put them together, where they've just done two of the best decks, whether it was like Q Block versus Murloc or.
Oh yeah, it's Pheno's versus series. He loves like doing. He did what the Q Block versus Raza, and they were like exactly 50-50 over 30 games or something.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact details, but I think those are good ideas, and I think the show match between the teams was really good, and the humor they had, I thought it was really well done, and I'm looking forward to hopefully them doing more of that kind of stuff, because it showcases the personalities of players as well as the just the games and the gameplay as well, and I think that makes Hearthstone in general more interesting and more accessible to just the average gamer who might not be a hardcore Hearthstone fan, excuse me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it kind of shows the fun of it too, right? And I agree with you on Zalay's sense of humor. He's just smarmy enough to be like, I probably shouldn't like him, but I do. And that kind of, and he's all about like the WWE style heel almost. That kind of personality and the way these teams are very clearly enjoying themselves and talking things over, and like the casters are getting in on it. It was Soddle and Darrock Brown, and I mean Soddle knows all these guys backwards and forwards, and towards the end there, Derek was like, these digs you've got against Crane, they're getting less and less subtle as time goes on. Just really entertaining for everyone to get into it. So I agree 100%. I had forgotten about Pheno's versus series. I'm going to go watch some of those because that was fun.
Hopefully he starts it up again, because it feels like, I mean, he could have done like odd Paladin versus even Paladin would have been a cool match. Well, maybe not that cool, because it feels like one is specifically favored against the other one. But we're about to get into that.
Thank you for that segue. Speaking of flavors of Paladin, but before we do, we've got a little something, right? Let me play a bumper.
Rock is dead.
So before we get into the explanations, we have a little raffle to do. We have our monthly raffle. This is a $20 Battlenet gift card that if you are a current patron and you contribute more than $5 a month or equal to or more, then you are eligible. And I'm going to roll the dice here while this drum roll plays. And it's Corniforos! Congratulations! Corniforos, congratulations. You win a $20 gift card. Thank you so much for being a patron of the show. Thank you all for listening. And now it's time for some explanations.
All right, so this week we were kind of talking about what we wanted to do for Dexplanations, and Hat brought up the idea of even Paladin, and I was like, well, we have a guest coming on this week who might know a thing or two about Murloc Paladin, And so why don't we just kind of do all of the different flavors of Paladin? And so I guess what it says here, despite everything, the popularity of Q block, a full rotation, and loss of 3 sets, a nerf to War Leader, etc., Paladin is currently the strongest class in the game. It's not just due to call to arms. Some Paladin decks can't even play it and don't really care. And we've kind of entered. I wanted to quote it as the villain mainly because we're all playing Quest Rogue, and it's definitely the villain to that deck as opposed to Q block. But
From our perspective right now, Quest
yes.
Rogue is the good guy.
So Paladin is able to threaten the aggressive, or be aggressive enough to be able to take down the Quest Rogue players, and actually I think does okay against the Warlock decks, even though Warlocks have seems to be infinite removal. I don't think the matchup is as terrible as some people would make you believe. I don't know that it's favored, but either way, I figure we kind of go over the different strategies of a Paladin here. So I guess we'll start with probably was the front runner for the best Paladin deck in the beginning, but seems to have fallen off quite a bit, and that's of course Odd Paladin. So I guess we should kind of just go over the general game plan of Odd Paladin, which to me I think is just hero power as much as possible, create a very scary board, just creating 2 creatures for a hero power is just can get overwhelming very quickly, and that seems to be, you lean really hard on your hero power, and it feels like if your hero power is not strong enough to like keep you in the game or to keep you ahead on board, then that's where it struggles. But if you're going against a deck that's not able to develop onto the board and you're able to make good use out of that hero power, it feels like you can kind of dominate a game. So what do you guys think? Why do you guys think? I'll start with Appa. Why do you think this deck was so popular to begin with, and why do you think it seems to be falling off now?
It was so popular coming out of the gate because it was one of Justicar Trueheart's better hero powers to upgrade. And just doing that on turn 1 is really powerful. You can just craft an entire strategy around it, and just spitting out 2 guys a turn, starting from turn 2 on, is really hard for some decks to deal with, and can win games on its own. The problem here, I think one of its main problems is it's fairly weak to AoE. It can reload with its hero power and things like Lost in the Jungle and stuff like that, but in the mid game, the 2/1/1s aren't as impactful, and a lot of the weakness here is you have to really reach kind of in the bottom of the barrel for odd cards, because most of Paladin's best cards are even. They're like Call to Arms, True Silver Champion, Tarim. You have to play cards like Stonehill Defender to try and get Tarim or Tyrion, and we see these lists play cards like Raid Leader and Stormwind Champion.
Witch's Cauldron.
And
which is actually kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Usually it plays like 1 now, but
and this is
a sweet card.
This is kind of the weakness of the deck. It's like the hero powers, like I think it's unquestionably better than Gen's hero power just because of the raw like power level of it, but the rest of the decks surrounding that hero power is a lot weaker than the Gen versions, I think.
Right. So, Jason, did you play much Odd Paladin? Did you play any Odd Paladin?
Sure, yeah, I played Odd Paladin
a lot.
I definitely played Odd Paladin. I think the biggest thing was when the new expansion first came out, no one wanted to play Warlock, and Warlock is Odd Paladin's biggest threat, right? So Odd Paladin thrived in the meta because no one wanted to play Q Block or Control Lock after playing it for however many months. So, obviously Odd Paladin does really good against even Paladin. It does good against the Rogue decks. It's pretty good against Aggro Hunter, which was also pretty popular in the beginning. So I think it did really, really well in the beginning for that reason mainly. And I think as people were like, okay, I kind of want to win games now. I want to just do what I can to climb ladder. And people started playing more and more Warlock. Odd Paladin just gets destroyed by Warlock. Like you said, it doesn't have the quality to kind of deal with the Void Lords after they get down. It doesn't really get enough pressure in early game to be able to kill the Warlock before they can really stabilize. So I think that that's a major reason for why it died out. But I also think it's underrepresented on ladder right now because of all the quest rogues. It's very good against quest rogue. It's very good against even paladin, and it's very good against odd.
So you do like the matchup against even paladin? I always felt like it was an underdog to even because you got cards like you get consecrates and knife jugglers, and that always felt to me, and like even some lists playing wild pyromancers, that it just felt to me like you were able to kind of keep up with their hero power because your hero power was one. Obviously, they're getting 2 minions, but you get to play all these 2-drops, which kind of each 2-drop is generally pretty good against two dudes a turn. Do you not really feel that way?
No, I think it's definitely something to consider. Maybe I didn't play enough games against even paladin because I'd kind of died out before even really got very popular. But I think that Odd definitely can contend with even Paladin for sure. With like playing cards like Raid Leader, you can get a lot of value trades with those cards. But you could very well maybe right. I haven't played a ton of games of Odd versus even, but just thinking intuitively, I figured that Odd would have the resources to continue pumping out hero powers. But I very well be wrong because like what good does equality do? Now you mentioned Wild Pyromancer. So maybe the early versions of what's called were running Wild Pyromancer, but I don't see anybody at all running Wild Pyromancer anymore, probably because there's no even Odd Paladin on the ladder. So if there's not Wild Pyromancer in the deck, I really think that the matchup is fine. But yeah, I mean, I guess if Odd Paladin did spike in usage again, that even Paladins would start running Wild Pyromancer and for sure be favored. But I'm not certain. I haven't played a ton of that matchup.
Yeah, I guess that definitely makes a lot more sense. I saw an even paladin last night with pyromancer, but that was probably just a random occurrence. I think I expect the beetle and Amani
Berserker.
Yeah,
and a lot of the decks are running 2 oozes now.
Right.
Yeah,
that's
the list I was talking about earlier, which is Ike's list, the way it fit in Wild Pyro and all those other cards, it took out the Jailers and the Dude cards. And it makes a lot more sense to play Wild Pyro when you're not going to kill all your stuff with Wild Pyro. And I think that's a different variation you can take the deck in. Because then you have Swamp Ooze, Direwolf, Plated Beetle, Wild Pyromancer, and Amani, and those are your 2-drops. And you don't pull any Dry Gulch Jailers ever. You don't have to worry about filling your board with 1/1s to make Stegodon matter, and you're less vulnerable to wide removal. But the builds that are more like oranges, that are about the lower curve and are much more minion-centric, they don't have room for Wild Pyro anymore, and they don't want it because it messes up their own board just as much as it messes up the opponent's.
Makes sense. So we have a thing going against the top decks. I would say against Og Rogue, you seem quite favored, mainly because your hero power makes 2 dudes, and the Odd Rogue's hero power only takes out 1 dude, and it's pretty inefficient to do so. So it feels like as long as you don't get fanonized, that you can build up a board that Rogue has somewhat of a problem dealing with, and also the odd decks seem to have more taunts, which get in the way of Odd Rogue's ability to push face damage. So I would say you're probably pretty favored in that matchup, but Q Block and pretty much all the Warlock decks feel quite unfavored because of obviously cards like Defile, Hellfire, Void Lord, stuff like that seems pretty hard for you to deal with. Quest Rogue, very favored. Just anything aggressive that can put pressure on Quest Rogue is quite good, and also the whole being able to make 2 guys and then their hero power can only take out 1 a turn. And then I would say from my brief experience that Odd Paladin seems unfavored against even Paladin, mainly because of Consecration and Knife Juggler. But obviously, if like you don't have Wild Pyromancer and like you don't have a lot of cheap spells, I could definitely see it snowballing out of control. But what do you think about the Murloc Paladin matchup? Have you played Murlocs versus Odd Paladin, Jason?
Oh, I mean, Paladin's definitely favored against Murlocs. Murlocs plays no board removal, right? So it's just so hard to like. Okay, so Murloc is a tribal deck, so you want to buff all of your minions, right? So Odd just jams the board so hard that it's almost impossible for you to build a board to even buff your minions. I think Murlocs. I know it's gotten a lot of play. A lot of people have been playing it, but I think it's going to really die out. Like its main problem in the last expansion was Warlock, and Warlock only lost what Mistress of Mixtures. It gained Voodoo Doll. It gained Lord Godfrey, which is like
It's
spectacular
pretty good
card.
against a deck of mid-range minions.
Exactly, and so like I was saying, Murloc's a tribal deck. It lost lost Inquisitor, the 1/3 that makes your hero power produce Murlocs. It lost like so many early game Murlocs, so it's just so hard against Warlock to build pressure. Like your win rate versus Warlock, since the expansion came out, has to have dropped considerably. I really think that Murlocs is going to kind of die out, and it pains me to say this, guys, but that's my prediction. I think Murlocs are going to kind of struggle, especially at the end of season when people are playing a lot of Warlock, unless like Quest Rogue is like super super popular. But it's definitely not as strong versus Warlock, and the deck itself isn't as strong overall as it used to be. So I'm not too hot on Murlocs moving forward, but we'll wait and see at end of month. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. I hope so.
All right. Well, I think we should get into the next deck we want to talk about, which is the one Hat wanted to bring up, which is Even Paladin. So, Hat, why don't you tell me kind of the general game plan of Even Paladin? I know you've done some coachings with it. Kind of what have your views been on it?
So Even Paladin is just a more flexible version. You don't have that ability to reflood the board with that press the button and then keep this endless wave of wide boards where you're going to threaten with cards like Raid, Leader, and Level Up. Instead, what you have is efficiency. You're never going to float a mana because you either hit your hero power, or you play a card and you hit your hero power, or you play a card. Those are your options. It's the 1 mana hero power fits so smoothly into all of your turns, and you have the option of never really floating mana and not having to make choices on that on your turn 1, turn 3, turn 5. You get to play more powerful cards, more expensive cards. Sunkeeper Tarim. Equality is really important. You get to play Call to Arms, which is really important. You get to play Consecration, which is pretty decent in the mirror and against other minion decks. And your weapon selection is much, much better. You don't get Vine Cleaver, but you get True Silver. You can get Valenier if you want to. Which is really good with Serenite Chain Gang, which you can also play. And you get Silver Sword, which is usually a very powerful one of. Being able to kind of have the flexibility to be... You can be a Dude Paladin deck, or you can be a mid-range deck that's... I wouldn't call it controlling, but more focused on maintaining board control. You have options there no matter what you do. So there have been a lot of different builds that have come out with this. Some people are playing Vicious Scalehide. Some are playing Stubborn Gastropod. Some are playing the Glass Knight. And some are curving all the way up to the Lich King, and even including a Bone Mare on occasion. So it definitely started picking up over time. It wasn't a day 1 deck. It was more of a day 3, day 4 deck, but now I think it is one of the consensus best decks in the format from what I've seen. It still keeps up pretty well with removal, because you're not flooding the board, but you're generating pressure every turn either way.
Yeah, the one note I will say about that whole the information you just gave us is that I do like Chain Gang in this list, because I think one of the bigger cards you're actually missing from Even Paladin is Righteous Protector. That used to be just one of the most kind of annoying cards that would come out of a Call to Arms, or that you could just play early to protect your Knife Jugglers and your other important minions. And so you just don't have a lot of taunts left in the deck. So Chain Gang is just like a fairly efficient minion that gives you a couple taunts to kind of set up for your later turns, it feels like. What have Appa, what kind of strengths do you think that this deck has? What do you think it's weak to?
Even Paladin it kind of goes bigger than Odd Paladin. It has a lot more staying power, I think, which means it has a lot more opportunity for play in games where things go a little wrong. Where like if you start like the strategy starts falling off the rails, like you have opportunities to like get back into it, especially with the Equality Consecrate and Equality Wild Pyro combo if you're playing Wild Pyro. I haven't played too much with the deck. I played a little bit with it on ladder, but most of what my information from it comes from like following people on Twitter and just looking at matchups. And I know I think the matchups have it being slightly favored over even Paladin. But it seems like it's definitely the Paladin flavor right now on ladder, with Murloc kind of creeping up on it. And there's so many different ways to build it. I think that's what's most interesting to me about it, is like there's so many different ways you can take the deck. You can take it a more controlling direction. You could take it a more mid-range, like token-based direction. You could take it a more aggressive direction. One thing that has really impressed me, though, it's not even really about the deck, but it's Silver Sword, right? The 8-mana thing, the 8-mana weapon. That card has really impressed me. I wasn't sure if it was going to be like too slow or not, but it just turns out it's really powerful.
Yeah, I think I was kind of talking about it a little bit when it was spoiled, just because I knew the power of Vine Cleaver, and I don't know that I was necessarily thinking about it in the even shell, the fact that you wouldn't be able to play Vine Cleaver, but I was just saying like the ability to develop a board and then make it powerful, which is kind of what you would do with Vine Cleaver, is you would just attack with the first charge of your Vine Cleaver, not really caring what happened to the 1/1s, but then the next turn you attack with it again, and then you can start doing your buffs, and it allowed you to do kind of some pretty busted stuff. The Silver Sword does a very similar thing, which I think is quite strong, and actually probably a reason that Ike did not have Valinir in his version of Paladin, just because I could definitely see situations where the Valinir's gonna overwrite the Silver Sword, and you really need like all 4 of those charges from the Silver Sword to be buffing your minions. I think.
Yeah, True Silver, Valinir, and Silver Sword seems like a lot of weapon charges jammed into one deck, so I can definitely see him cutting that out.
Yep. So mulligan strategies for this deck. I'm actually not like super familiar. I assume
I'm
Call
not
to
even
Arms is. I just
Yes.
assume like
Keep
I'm
that
thinking
card.
Call to Arms, and then like some of the better 2-drops. Like I feel like Berserker and Beetle would be cards I would consider keeping, but cards like Knife Juggler seem like something you don't want to keep because you'd rather pull it out with Call to Arms. I'm sure there are a lot of like matchup based mulligans that I'm not really thinking of, but for the most part, like 2-drop into Call to Arms seems quite good. But even a lot of times, just hero power on 1, hero power on 2 is quite good anyway if you don't have your 2-drop.
Well, it really depends, right? How are you trying to gain value in a matchup? If you're against a Warlock, you're hero powering as often as possible because you want them to remove threats that don't cost you cards. And if you're against a Hunter or an Odd Rogue, you're probably playing the 2-drop for its full cost on turn 2.
Right. What were you gonna say, Jason?
No, I was going to say, like, I think one of the big things that people don't talk about when it comes to Call to Arms in general is that when you're playing an even deck, all of your Call to Arms minions are 2 mana, so you're getting 6 mana value from your 4 mana. And not only that, like in general, one of the things people don't talk about is Call to Arms thins your deck, which makes all of your top decks better moving forward, right? That's why even Paladin, I think, is so good right now. I actually think it's probably going to be the deck that I use exclusively on EU because my EU count is limited. Its only real bad matchup is Warlock, right? I don't know any other major meta deck right now that beats even Paladin. Like maybe
Taunt Druid, but you can't really play Taunt Druid because
but
its
no
Quest
one's
Rogue
playing
matchup
it, right?
is so
No
bad.
one's playing Taunt Druid anymore. It totally died out. So like, what are you really losing to? You're only losing to Warlock. You're crushing Odd Rogue. You're beating Quest Rogue pretty consistently. I think it's good enough against Face Hunter as well. I think it's just, honestly, guys, I think it's the best Paladin flavor, as you were saying, and I think it's going to be extremely popular. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see like more interesting variations of it come as time goes on, because the Call to Arms card is just so strong. When every card you pull is a 2 mana card, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Makes a lot of sense.
the data we
One
report
of
is showing that it
the
loses to Defile decks and Control Mage, and every other matchup is either even or favored.
There you go.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on it. It looks like the Mind Blast Priest, like the control style priest, is getting a little more popular, and I think that's not a great matchup for it.
Yeah, that was actually the matchup that we saw. Duskybois healing the healing the face of their opponents and missing out on the win healing to their face because they knew that matchup was already just so good. It's like one of the reasons to play priest, I think, is because that matchup is so good.
Yeah, well,
what's called?
and Rage's Shudderwock Shaman, which is not a meta deck at all, but I will say when you play Wild Pyro with also 2 Volcanoes and a Lightning Storm and Hagatha, and you have Ancestral Healing and Zaps in your deck, Wild Pyro coin Ancestral Healing is disgusting. It's so gross.
Also, even just I've seen Asmodai playing his shaman deck and having like healing rains plus tar creepers and Tolvir Stone Shaper. Tolvir Stone Shaper is a pretty good wall against a lot of the paladin decks. Plus, just having fireflies. Fireflies are also just kind of very good, I think, against paladin in general.
Yeah.
Just for contesting the early silver hand recruits so they don't get out of hand.
At
Anyway.
a silver hand?
What?
So they don't get out of silver hand?
Right.
Oh my goodness.
Also, guys, I don't know if you if any of you have played this, but today I played a matchup against like the new combo priest list. I think it was Farting Affy who kind of hit rank 2 legend with it, and I started to see a few more players play it. It seems like a really good deck to me, and this is a deck that could potentially like shift the meta a little bit, because if it becomes more popular, then if the play rate rises, then that's going to be a big player in what decks are strong and not strong. And I think even Paladin does pretty good against that deck as well.
Yeah, I know Justine was doing quite well with combo priest, so that's potential there. But anyway, the last deck we'll talk about is Murloc Paladin. I know you got a soft spot in your heart for it, PapaJason. So, what do you say? What is going on with the new Murloc Paladin? Why do you think it's getting popular?
Yeah, I mean, it was a really strong deck before, right? And the power levels of almost every deck besides Warlock was decreased. Like, I really feel like in this expansion they wanted to like lower the power levels of the deck. So even though Murloc lost cards, it's still a good deck, right? But you did lose a lot of the tribal cards, and you've seen like 2 major builds kind of come out of it, which was, I think, Mitsuhide, who kind of came out with the Bellringer Sentry secret build, and then I believe Boar Control kind of had the more standard Murloc build, which added the the name of the card is escaping me. The 1 mana get 2 dudes card.
Oh, Lost in the Jungle?
Yeah, Lost in the Jungle. Sorry, I couldn't remember that. I prefer the Lost in the Jungle list personally, but either way, like, it's a tribal deck, right? And you can't buff those Lost in the Jungle cards with your War Leader or your Cold Light Seer anymore. So like I said, the power level deck has gone down overall, but its biggest problem is Warlock, right? It's still good against Quest Mage. It's still good against Odd Rogue. Or no, actually, it's not very good against Odd Rogue. Sorry, Murloc takes a tough hit versus Odd Rogue, right? Because the 2 mana dagger, or the 2 attack dagger, is kind of strong. You can kill the Tidecaller on one.
Each dagger just eats 2 of your minions.
Yeah, it's really, really tough, and that's another reason why I don't think it's going to be as good, right? Because Odd Rogue's still very popular. I just think even Paladin is just a better play in the meta right now, and I have a hard time seeing Murloc become as good as it was. Though I still think it'll be playable, just not nearly like it won't be. I don't think it's a tier 1 deck. I know the stats are like kind of fleshing it out as a really top deck right now, but I think if you're playing especially at like high legend where people are playing their decks very optimally, I don't think Murloc is going to be super viable. And I could be wrong. And trust me, guys, I want it to be great. So I'm biased for Murlocs, but I just don't. I'm not seeing it as being nearly on the level as even Paladin moving forward.
Do you think it has any strengths that some of these other decks do? Obviously, the ability to just play cards of any mana cost is kind of a strength, but what do you think, like the fact that you can put together some synergies if your creatures aren't getting removed, is that like a big strength? Or
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, that's what the tribal aspect of Murlocs is what makes it strong, right? But like I said, we lost so many of the good Murloc cards. We lost the 2/1 that buffs a Murloc for 1/1 in hand. You lost the 1/3 that makes your hero power created a Murloc before. Now it creates just a normal dude throughout the game, so you can never buff the dude that comes from your hero power. It's such a power decrease in the deck that obviously decks like Quest Rogue where you can still get the board and they can't really deal with your minions. It's still very, very powerful against Quest Rogue. It's still very strong. I actually think it's pretty good against Even Paladin. Like, it's probably close to 50-50 versus Even Paladin. So it does deal with quite a few of the decks in the meta, but then it loses to Odd Rogue, which is very popular. It loses to... It gets crushed by Warlock now. So, like, I just really like Odd Rogue. I mean, I really like Even Paladin as opposed to Murloc right now because, well, Even Paladin's really only weakness is Warlock. Murloc just has multiple weaknesses, and I just don't think it makes up for, what it's lost in comparison to Even Paladin.
Makes sense. Appa, have you seen much Murloc Paladin on ladder? I've seen it a couple times, and it smashed me, but I feel like it was because I was playing Quest Rogue, and any Paladin probably would have smashed me.
Yeah, I've played against it a little bit, and I've taken a look at a lot of lists. It did lose a lot of the very powerful tribal synergies, but it still does have a lot of what made the Murloc package so powerful. Like, it still has games that you pretty much can't lose if you go Tidecaller, Rockpool, War Leader, Megasaur, and the game's pretty much just over. It has like really good draws like that, which is kind of a pull to play that deck. And even though you are playing some, I guess, suboptimal cards like Lost in the Jungle, in terms of your overall strategy, the cards, like those kind of cards, still are powerful on their own. And Nightmare Amalgam is actually an interesting card in the deck because a Spider Tank, like in terms of stats, 3-mana 3/4 is like fairly solid for the most part, and like that being a Murloc makes curving into your Megasaur turns a little bit easier. I think the deck got it slowed down a little bit and got slightly bigger in terms of its curve, but I think it's still fine. It definitely struggles a little bit against Warlock and Odd Rogue, but I think really it needs to adapt in terms of its build to make those matchups a little bit better. Not sure how much better you can make your Rogue matchup because that hero power just eats you alive. But I think if the deck can go like a little bit bigger and fit in some tech cards, I think it can make its Warlock matchup a little better.
Yeah, Amalgam kind of reminds me of Talon Priest in the sense that, like, obviously Talon Priest you would sometimes just play as like a 3-mana 3/4, but anytime you got value off of increasing the toughness of another one of your creatures, if you get any value off the Amalgam, it feels like, it feels amazing, right? Like, just any sort of value you can get from it. Do you have anything more to say about Murloc Paladin Hat?
I don't think there is a single thing left about Murloc Paladin that you all haven't discussed.
Wait,
It's-
guys, can I throw something interesting in here?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did play a few games, and I'm gonna go off the Paladin train of Murloc Hunter.
Oh my goodness.
You guys, but you don't even realize, right? The Megasaur is a beast. Amalgam is a beast and a Murloc, right?
What is happening?
And you play Houndmaster too, right?
You play Houndmaster.
Because curving Amalgam into Houndmaster is nice.
What's the 3/2 adapt?
Razor Maw.
Crackling Razor Maw.
You can Houndmaster, War Leader, buff the Amalgam. It takes all these synergies, and then the Megasaur also has the Beast synergy. So there's actually a lot of Murloc Beast synergy in the Hunter deck, and it's not like an amazing deck. But if you guys are looking for something really fun to play, will win you games but isn't spectacular, I highly recommend it. It's pretty fun to play.
Does it play Houndmaster Shaw?
The list I played didn't play Houndmaster Shaw, but it may be fine.
See, I'm trying to push top legend ranks over here, and you're sucking me down the hole with Murloc Hunter.
It's Hunter and Shaman are the fun decks in the meta right now. I will say that after a coaching session this past week, I went on stream and I played my Katharina, Silver Vanguard, Seeping Oozling Hunter, and Big Hunter is big fun. Like, you just kill people with King Crush. When's the last time you got to do that?
Not that often.
Never for me.
I strongly recommend trying it. It's not quite eye for an eye and you're at 1, but it's pretty close.
I think the last time I did that, I think the last time I killed someone with King Crush was 2016 prelims, and I got it off Undercity Huckster.
It's as it was meant to be
sweet.
played. As you know what? Brode would have wanted that. That's what Brode would have wanted.
And Brode's name we play.
Oh my goodness.
Where's I need a
Waka 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 waka. Hey, waka waka.
I have the Waka Waka queued up just for you. All right, I think we are just about wrapped up with all this Paladin, and you know what that means? That means it's time for our show to come to an end. So the only question I have to ask every day.
How long can this go on?
You guys, I made a bumper. I wanted something spooky and Witchwoody, and so I'm like, I'll just take the Witchwood theme song and put Serenite on top of it. And that seemed to work.
I like it.
So, we have a lot of people to thank today, not the least of which is PapaJason. Jason, thank you so much for coming on. But we've got a whole bunch of other people to thank, too. We've got Stefan L. We want to thank him for letting us use his cover. You can check him out on his channel, linked in our show notes. Big thanks to Hearthstone Top Decks and BeerBrick.com for Decklists. Hearthstone Tournaments on YouTube for tournament VODs, Hearthstone for their tournament survival guides. The show notes for this week's episode are on our website, CoinConcede.com. You can support our show at Patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week by following us on Twitch at twitch.tv/CoinConcede podcast. We do it live. Join our community chats and Discord.CoinConcede.com. Write into our email at CoinConcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. If you'd like CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.CoinConcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Calum, Viriatus, and...
It's so
Fluffy. All right, Jason, you are the honorary first person. Who is your shout-out, or as we call them here, who would you like to coin concede to?
Wait, what?
That look is...
We'll come back to you. So what we do at the end of the show, and patrons, you're great. You're the only ones that are ever going to hear this. So, Jason, what we do every week is we shout out people, except we don't shout people out. We coin concede to them. That's kind of our gimmick. We give them the coin, and then we concede. And so I'll go first as an example. So this week, I'd like to coin concede. Well, there's a few people. First of all, Papa Brode. Brode, you're great. We love you. We already talked about it. I'll give you one last laugh. Thank you for everything. You will forever have my coin concede. But also, I got to shout out Rod and Adam over on Tier 5, and the guys over at Blizzlet, Lord Grievous and Storm Rage. Jack was unfortunately not there, but I was on both of those podcasts in the past week, and boy, were they fun. I will warn you, both of those are a little blue. Don't listen with the kids in the car, especially not Blizzlet. But this week's episode of Tier 5, within the first 20 minutes, I end up making a pretty strong argument for owning a bidet, and it just goes downhill from there, or uphill, depending on your perspective on bidets. By the way, you should own one, but we won't get into that here. Listen to Tier 5 if you want to hear more. I'd also like to shout out Ronka. She's one of our patrons, longtime member of the community. She got second in a tournament this past weekend, and very proud of her performance. She tweeted about it a little bit. Go check her out on Twitter. All right, Botticus, who you want to coin concede to?
So I got a nice little message in Discord today from Samurai Flea, and I think sometimes I realize I get too much in my head about a lot of things, and it was just really nice to hear something positive about my my inclusion on the show. So thank you so much for that pick me up, Samurai Flea. It's kind of exactly what I needed. So that's my coin concede for this week.
That's nice. Thanks, Samurai Flea. All right, Jason, are you ready for us?
I think I'm ready now. Hopefully I get this right.
There's no wrong. It's your coin. You concede to who
Beautiful.
you want.
Then I'm going to coin concede to the whole Blizzard team. I'm so happy they removed Barnes, Ice Block, and what's that Murloc that draws 2 cards? A Cold Light Oracle from the game. Yep. I hated all 3 of those cards, and I thought that card choice to remove from the game was spectacular. So my coin concede is to the Blizzard or the Hearthstone team.
That is an excellent coin concede. I will say, don't let the wild players hear you talking like that, because Barnes is a burden they bear every day.
It's still in the game. It's still very much around.
Yeah.
I promise.
Yep. So, on that positive note, Appa, go ahead and give us that last coin concede.
I'll coin concede to mid game because he is handling this listener league stuff like
He's
a champion.
doing an insane job.
Yep,
So good.
He's doing a great job organizing and just keeping track of everything. So I wanted to give a shout out to him for that because I don't think he gets enough recognition for that because managing he has to herd cats right now. He has to herd lots and lots of cats. And respect for that.
Speaking of, if you're listening to the podcast right now and have some questions about joining our awesome listener league that we're going to have starting here in about 5 days, make sure you join up on the Discord and find out that listener league channel and sign up because it's a free little tournament that we're putting on, and we'd love to have you there.
And in fact, there are a few tournaments we want to talk about that are coming up that our listeners can play in, because there's also this really cool team called Swagway. And I don't know if any of you all have heard of this, but if you watch United Hearth League, which 3 of the 4 of us are a part of, PapaJason, next season, I'm coming for you. But Appa and Botticus are on the casting team, and I am one of the players and the reigning champion, just throwing that out there.
The
And
humblest of brags.
there was no humility there. I was just dropping it there just so everyone could see my trophy. The Team Swagway, they are actually running monthly tournaments, and their first one is normally a member tournament, but this is a tournament that's open to everybody. There's a Battlefy link that we have in the show notes here, and there is a base $100 prize pool for 32 players, increased to $200, otherwise increased to $300. They have a Discord link, and it's an online Swiss tournament on Saturday, May 5th. That's at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Pacific. So we're going to drop this link in here. We're going to drop this link in the Discord, in the Coin Concede Discord, and we'd strongly recommend checking it out. These are good people. We're good friends with all of them. They cast matches. They're really strong players, and they want to play Hearthstone with you and give you money, so definitely check them out. And then Edelweiss had mentioned this, but the Brotherly Brawl is coming up. And if I recall correctly, that's this weekend.
That's what I've been prepping for.
The Brotherly Brawl is coming up, and if Appa's playing in it, you know it must be good. It is an online tournament this Saturday and Sunday, the 28th and 29th. I guess we better hurry and get this podcast up before then so everyone can go register and play. But it's a $5,000 prize pool. $5,000. That's a lot of dollars.
Appa, that's the one that's in Philly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
I'm actually gonna go there.
It's a 10K.
But it's hybrid.
I'm gonna go there. I'm actually gonna go and spectate in person.
Whoa.
Awesome. Well, I'm playing online, so I'll still be in New Orleans.
Yes. But if you want to go and meet PapaJason, go down to the tournament. And if you want to play in the tournament against Appa, and I really hope you play, but if you play against Appa, I hope you lose. If you want to do that, join the Brotherly Brawl. Man, so many good tournaments, not just for watching, also for playing. So we're going to have all these links in the show notes in the community involvement section, which I just made up. It's going to be between our coin concedes and our contact information, but definitely go check them out. If you want to get involved yourself as a tournament player, you say, I've been listening to Coin Concede so much that I just have all this tournament knowledge inside me and I can't wait to use it to make some money and crush some faces. Well, you have found yourself the right weekend, my friends. All right, let's talk about where we can find each other. PapaJason, you were the guest. Where can we find you online?
Twitch TV, PapaJasonHS. Same thing at Twitter, PapaJasonHS. I don't know my Discord plug, but you can get it through my my Twitch channel easily. Those are the main places to find me.
Those are excellent places to find you. On. Yeah, I agree. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was great. I had a great time.
Us too. Again, Herbal Essences commercial. I got to get a bumper for that and fill it in, but that cut might be a little bit too deep. We're going back a few years. Botticus, where can we find you?
So I'm on Twitter at BotticusHS. You can find me on Twitch, but not for the next week and a half at least, because I'm going to be in China. But that's twitch.tv/Botticus. That's it.
And Appa, how about you?
So I'm just gonna stop plugging my Twitch channel for a couple months until we move. So you can find me on Twitter at Appa_HS, or on Discord. I've been pretty active on Discord lately. Basically just getting the Concede Discord, or I'm in a lot of Hearthstone Discords. So just like go in there and just find me, and then we can talk about Hearthstone.
Yay. And then for me, you can follow me on Twitter at RidiculousHat, Twitch, twitch.tv/RidiculousHat. I won't be streaming this Thursday because of Enders, but I stream generally Mondays and Thursdays. You can find me in any Hearthstone Discord, type in at RidiculousHat, and I will appear. And you can also find friends of the show, founders of the show. There's Cora, there's Kenny. Cora's at SongbirdHS or on twitch.tv/SongbirdCora. Kenny is on Twitter at KCCOGamer. But for now, that's gonna do it for us. And we got it in under 2 hours for the first time since, God, I don't know when. Keep calm and rogue on. And if you see us on the ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory. You win. I can rest now. You win. For now. Now, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death. You have triumphed. This time.